What's good, everybody? What's going on, man? It's Stephen Qualls II, aka Mr. Qualified. It's your boy. And we are back for another episode of the Right Quality Podcast. Friends, co-hosts, please remind the people of who you are.
Ashley Wright the first, ready to get through this first team all zesty.
Okay.
Oh, crazy. Uh, shouts out to some powerful creators over here. What it do? Uh, yeah, this is the unveiling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, crowning. Natural lining. No, nothing done. No CGI. Hasn't been touched up yet. Didn't get the beam yet, but soon to come.
So, like, are you doing like waves and then into curls, into braids, into fro? Like, what's your process here?
Minimal. I'm trying to just deflake and just see where it goes. I think that's really it. I can't really the waves. I feel like that's the anti plot to my scalp healthiness. Just like a ton of, I can't. Thinking about bleaching it, thinking about going blonde for a second, and I was like, then people are really gonna think that something is wrong with me. So I got to refrain. Too soon. So soon come though.
This should be interesting to see. Gail's hair is going to be back very soon. By the end of the summer, he's going to basically have an afro again. This is how Miguel's hair works, but nonetheless, he does this like every few years, so it's about right on time to cut it off and start anew.
Man, the spring air with the sunroof down. Oh, like I told everyone's heard it. It feels like a mint. It's incredible.
It feels like a mint.
On my scalp. Anyways, we're a basketball podcast. We're a sports podcast. Let's get into it. What's the first thing on the docket? What do we got?
To the injury that you were touching on, very unfortunate the more you think about it, not just because of the series, but really because of what it means for Tatum's career. And he's at such an interesting point in his career right now. Like, obviously, it has implications on the series because they were already down. They started the series terribly. They're now down 3-1 at the time of this recording. The assumption is that they will lose in 5 or 6. I don't know if people think that they are going to win 3 games in a row, let alone if they can even win 2 games in a row at this point, maybe. But for Tatum to be at a place in his career where, he's being criticized, at an extremely high level, and I say rightfully so from the standpoint of what the league and what fans expect from him, but he now is missing a year plus, theoretically, of time in his prime to where there shouldn't be any questions about, his career or even his legacy up to this point. But you kind of start to think about what his career could have looked like because he had been one of the healthiest players in the league, but also that brings into play what Boston's future looks like now, because their window, as most of us saw it, looks completely different now with him being out for more than likely a year. So, yeah, thoughts on the injury and thoughts on the outlook for the Celtics moving forward.
Like you said, very unfortunate, especially with the type of game he was having. I mean, 42 points, literally under 3 minutes left in the game, and that's how you go out. Like, that sucks. That's sick. And you just hate to see a young star like Jayson go down. What were you saying?
Feels Derrick Rose-ish, even though that game was out of hand.
Yeah, it does. It's like it sucked the life out of the game. Honestly, like, yeah, okay, cool, great game, good back and forth. Happy for the Knicks fans, but you can't deny like it was a dark cloud for literally the rest of the night as we talked about how the Celtics move forward. What's Jason's outlook? And then like also thinking back, I know KD was a little older when he tore his Achilles, but that was an 18-month recovery process. So Steve, I think that was a good point. The point that Jayson is in his career, like I just feel like it couldn't have happened at a worse time because this is like prime. And honestly, I don't think Jayson hit his peak yet either. I don't. I think he was still ascending. And it's like, it feels as though he was robbed, honestly, because he's 27 now. He'll be, what, 29 by the time he's able to get back? Like, that
Good
sucks.
age. Good age.
It is a good age,
It's
but
not. I
like,
mean, it's not a bad
not,
age.
it's not a bad age.
It's
You're
not
not
an
young
ideal age.
beyond 30. Yeah.
Before this, yeah, like you said, dark cloud. Always praying for the Celtics' demise, but not like this. You just want to see all teams healthy, and it kind of sucks. It really sucks. Because now it's just like, all right, if the Knicks win, it's like, granted, they have a $300 million man over there that, sixth man of the year. They still got a bona fide team. Like, it still can be done.
But so that's my thing. For as much as everybody's talked about it, and Gail, you said it more than the rest of us, but we've all kind of been on this side of the fence before. For as much as the talk has been about Tatum benefiting more from how good of a team he had around him, I think when you remove Tatum from this roster and remove him from that team, they look completely different. Jaylen Brown is
I
great.
wonder,
Like,
I wonder if I don't want to say it. I don't want
But
to put
they're
it
a
out.
team that was also, I think they were 8-2 without Tatum.
I don't want to say they can push it 7, but I wouldn't be surprised if they accidentally somehow, some way, found themselves in a game 7, and I would hate to see it. With these circumstances, I would love to see it, actually. But
I wouldn't be so. I would.
they've been really good all year. I wonder if the Ewing effect happens to the Knicks now. That would be ironic.
The what effect?
The Ewing effect.
Okay.
You're familiar with. I guess. Well, for the layman that's watching the podcast, the Ewing effect is the theory that when a team star player goes out, that teams play better, or that the individual will play better because there is that absence of that star player. So I wonder if said theory will play out in this series.
I don't disagree with you at all, except for the fact that outside of Tatum, Boston has not been that consistent, right? I think the most consistent player I would argue outside of Tatum is probably Derek White, right? You got Jaylen Brown, who's been dealing with injuries. Drew and Kristaps been dealing with injuries, and so I think because players, like Horford is right there too, but like even how Horford's sporty, like so.
Why are we depending on Al? They said they couldn't depend on Al Horford in a 7-game series. Here we are in 2025. That man's immortal. He's gonna go off for, mark my words. He's bet the over on 6 threes next game.
I don't disagree with that. It could happen, but I just don't think. I don't think it's sustainable. Like I wouldn't be surprised at all if they get game 5 in convincing fashion at that. But I think game 6 in the Garden is going to be a tougher game, and not because these players aren't used to the playoff spotlight, but one, I think New York just has incredible momentum right now, and I think Brunson has finally caught his stride. So I think that makes them even more dangerous. But I think they just have the Celtics beat with depth right now. And even if I think Boston would have to play almost flawless, right, to push this to 7. And not that they're incapable of playing flawless. I just think it's much more difficult to play flawless without a Jayson Tatum, right? So I just think that's the situation that they're in. But again, I don't disagree with you. If they were to push it, I do think they're still a very talented squad. But in terms of the decisions they'll have to make in the offseason, there was a lot of rumbling of whether, they would move on from some of these core pieces in the offseason because of their financial situation. I mean, they're paying their starting 5 $1 billion, so do they move on from a player or two? And with Tatum's injury, what does that look like now? Can you afford to move on from a player or two? Or if you're moving those players, who exactly are you trying to bring in? And now what does your timeline look like for your star player to be out for a year and some change, really a year and a half, depending on how, all the recovery lines up and everything. But thoughts on what Celtics do looking at their future and their changed like title window now?
Hey,
$1 billion?
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't hear about that? It's not technically a billion.
It's
It's
not
not
technically a billion.
super close though.
And it
Okay, I'm
will.
about
Like I don't know how many contracts. I don't know how many
scaling,
contracts are set up
scaling
there.
contracts.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how many of their contracts are set up to like get paid more as the year passes. But yeah,
Why don't I would retire with those 5 guys and just crypto trade.
Hmm.
if you were healthy, that's kind of why they did it initially. If you're healthy, that is a core that you pretty much um that is a core that you pretty much ride out through their contracts. But now, again, like I was saying before, I said if they didn't win, that it would look different anyway, because you would either have players getting disgruntled or the money would become too much. And I think you're just presented with that dilemma a little bit earlier than you expected, or more importantly, just without as many rings as you thought you might have had by the time you had to face the dilemma.
Jalen and Kristaps for Giannis.
I would not be surprised if the Celtics try to get into the Giannis sweepstakes. Wouldn't surprise
I
me.
think Brad
Deal?
Stevens
No,
does
no.
something. I know you would hate it. Hey, I'm sorry, but Brad Stevens would be remiss if he didn't try.
$3 million. Yeah.
You put Giannis and Drew back together. Then you still have Horford, Derek White. Maybe you move Peyton Pritchard along with Jalen and Kristaps. I don't know if that's too much. But then you see what you can do. And then you introduce Jayson Tatum back into the fold.
It's not the craziest thing in the world. I'm not gonna be surprised by too much that gets thrown out there this
Yeah.
offseason.
What can I bet that's egregious? I'll bet my spot on this podcast that trade never happens. If it does, congratulations to my haters. You've won.
No,
Play this.
you're never getting off of this thing.
Oh my. Because that will never happen. And I hope that in a million years, in a million universes that Doctor Strange looks at, that's the one and only that I don't live in. And I'm good.
Hmm.
That's fair. To the Knicks, though, I mean, we do need to talk about the Knicks because I feel like we said it on this pod, but I don't think we thought the Knicks were for real, right? And we can look at circumstances and say maybe they still aren't technically, legitimately, but nonetheless, they've been playing some pretty good basketball, pretty damn good basketball, honestly. And Brunson has done like he's been doing the past couple of years, risen to the occasion in the playoffs. More specifically, we saw him do that to close out the series against Detroit, and we've seen him do that in these games in this series with Boston even before the injury. So what has surprised you the most about New York so far in this series and even maybe in this playoff run?
You know what? The surprising thing is that New York is like the chemistry is clicking and they're winning. Because in the regular season, we saw they had like an atrocious record against the league's top teams, Boston, Cleveland, and OKC. And now it's like, where did this come from? I'm not gonna lie, I was a skeptic when Jalen Brunson won the clutch player of the season. I see why. So I don't know if it was like the added momentum of like celebrity row in the playoffs or what, but I wouldn't say it was surprising, but it was like, oh, where has this team been for me once they came in the playoffs?
Hmm.
Like, even when they were playing in that Detroit series, they weren't playing like this. I thought when they ran up on Boston, Boston was going to have a field day.
I would like to throw into the hat that this might be the case of playing up to your opponent.
True.
This could have very much been them going into the Boston series knowing the narrative of them
Yeah.
not playing well against them during the regular season and the talk of them not being good against the best teams in the East. And so maybe they knew they had to turn it up a notch and they did that and were able to steal 2 games and flip the series on his head, before other circumstances came into play. But I agree. We're seeing a completely different team now than we were at the start of the playoffs and definitely at the end of the regular season when Brunson was out dealing with the injury. So yeah.
They were getting scraped in both of those games too. Like they were getting
Yeah.
worked, and they came back and won both. So, but what? Well, I forgot what they said. I maybe said that they were like fake good at some point, but I've also had, some belief that the Knicks Wolves trade would result in a win-win as well. It's either going to be both teams are, it's a crapshoot and we get what we get, or somehow we get a Knicks Wolves final. And lo and behold, the odds are very high that we see this year.
You know what? For the sake of narrative and storyline, that would be poetic. That would be poetic to end the season with
Ant versus Ant. Oh my God, the dialogue is going to be hilarious. It's going to feed families.
And like that's a really well balanced series too.
That is because it's like Ant versus like every one of these stars, and then Ant versus the Garden.
Yeah, that's fire.
Me that series.
That's fire.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Give me a Ant poster on Cat. Give me a Jalen Brunson game winner, game 2. Let me, and then we go back to the Garden and let me see Ant take 2 more. I want to see. I need this. This is my NBA.
I just don't know if you'll get it.
Yeah, it's tough. We don't know.
I don't know if it.
I don't have the hair. I'm not Jared anymore.
Right.
My pull.
Also, I have hair. I'm not Jared anymore. But
Carlos Arroyo now. Is there anybody that looks like
Carlos Arroyo? Is
took me out with that one.
Crazy.
Took me out with that one. Throwback.
Hold on, wait.
That's insane.
Yeah,
I don't look like one in the league. Oh wait, no.
But
other back from Indiana.
Other Knicks I want to shout out. Shout out Mikal Bridges.
Mm-hmm.
I know where this version of Mikal Bridges has been for the entire season, but we are glad that he showed up. Now, also would consider Mikal Bridges to be a playoff riser. Think that's a fair assessment to make.
They were calling him a terrorist at the beginning of the year.
They were.
Yeah,
they were. Playoff riser.
I'm pretty sure.
OG has had some huge games for New York. Mm-hmm. Huge game. Mitchell Robinson also with a huge impact with rebound. And so New York has really been doing it by committee. But I mean, Brunson's been spectacular. He's been
great. They said OG was balling since Sonny Lee pulled up.
They have said that. That has been storyline from the season. It has. But we're all assuming the Knicks, regardless of how many games, come out of this series.
I think so.
I think they do.
Oh God.
And we now know that if they do come out the series, who they'll be playing, because we just saw as we were recording, Pacers and Cavs has finally wrapped up. Pacers win it again in 5. Before we get to the Pacers, because they deserve a little bit of their own time.
They do. The Cavs, though.
Cavs. Where should we begin? Any initial thoughts from you all?
What happened, Donovan Embiid? Like,
I don't think you can blame Donovan in this situation.
When can you blame Joel?
I agree with that. I don't think you can blame Joel that much either.
When can you blame Chris? Exactly, all these guys.
Okay. All right.
That's where we stop that conversation. Joel Embiid has an excuse. Don't give it to me.
No, I don't think Embiid has an excuse. I don't think Mitchell has an excuse. I think this brings up the very conversation that you spoke to, Miguel, when we were talking about this in regard to Donovan Mitchell-led teams. Now, do I feel like Donovan Mitchell-led teams is so much an indictment against Mitchell's production? No, but it's the idea that like he can do all of that, but if you don't have another player, if you don't have somebody else that is at maybe a more pivotal position, like I'm not sure how else to describe it, right? But like you can't say Donovan Mitchell isn't producing. However, his producing isn't necessarily leading to his team winning. It's just hard because I feel like he's putting them in a position to win, though. Like, so his production not leading to winning feels unfair to say it's his fault, but I get that the blame has to go somewhere. And
And
he's
I
I'm
don't.
not saying it's his fault.
It's
I'm
just
not.
that. Yeah, I think I'll say I don't believe in Donovan Mitchell led teams solely because historically we've seen that it hasn't worked. If he's a 2-man, if he's the if he's an other, if he is
if
a
he's the one
Robinson,
B, if he's the one B,
if he's the 1B, I think a team could do great things. But him as a 1A,
it's just not a
he plays his tail off. I used my one swear today. But it's just not enough to get over the hump. It wasn't enough to get over the Pacers. And man, Giannis couldn't get over the Pacers, which they're cooking. Before we get to the Pacers, the Cavs, injury riddled. You know, you could see DG was not moving like DG today. And
Mhm.
man, like Nemhart was moving like Nemhart. Neesmith was moving like Neesmith with the double-double. Like Halliburton, what the Hallie Burton, as you know, Rob 49 I said. But I don't know. The Cavs, I was never a believer, and I hate to say it, but we're here now. I don't know.
oh,
So
They,
what more can Donovan use? Because he's had teams where he was with Rudy Gobert, he was with Mike Conley, he's with Evan Mobley, he's with Darius Garland, he's got Jared Allen. What more does Donovan need?
he needs the others. He needs the others. So that leads me to this point. So did the series go this way because of, I don't want to say it solely fell on game two, but you have Garland, Mobley, and Hunter out in game two. Garland clearly has never been the same, even since returning. And I'm pretty sure he really didn't want to return or feel like he was 100%, but tried to tough it out for the sake of the series. But when they were on the court, we saw what made them a complete team, and we saw those games be competitive for the most part, against Indiana. So is it just a matter of him needing that production to be consistent and sustainable from the others? Because actually, to your point, I feel like he's been given the tools and the resources and has had the complete teams to be able to do something. But I don't know if that comes down to him as a 1A just not being enough or his others having consistently given enough production to help get over the hump if his production isn't the issue.
Yeah, it's not his production. I'm not being unfair for you TikTok warriors. It's not Donovan's production. But like y'all are saying, I just don't know if he's 1A.
Yeah, that's fool. What do they do this offseason? Nothing,
Get healthy.
I guess.
Because what else do they need? I like Hunter. I wouldn't move anybody.
I wouldn't move anybody. I think they have a couple of bench players that might be going into free agency. Like I think Ty Jerome, for example, is one of the
Yeah.
players. But honestly, I
he
think
just burned up that contract.
facts. But I think you run it back and you expect this team to grow. And the idea that like with the expectations and maybe with them knowing what they were truly capable of, maybe they just attack next season with a different type of rigor, or they'll just continue to fall into this. I mean, I don't want to look too far into the future, but whether you're Donovan Mitchell or whether you're the Cavs in general, Mitchell's been here for what, 2 years now? Or was this year three? Uh I think this was year three. Yeah, this was year three,
Like,
Mitchell being in Cleveland. I'm not sure his contract situation. I had to look it up, but if they don't get past the second round in the entirety of his, stint here in Cleveland, by the time his contract is up, you might be having that conversation, or he might be looking at wanting to be in a different situation. Maybe he finally decides, let me go try to be a 1B somewhere as opposed to being a 1A. He might be getting to that point in his career. Who knows, right? But interesting offseason for Cleveland. I agree. I think what we all kind of alluded to. I don't think they move too much or have to do too much, but I think next season will be even bigger for them in regard to what they need to do to convince that the core they have is worth investing into more. But we shall see. Two Pacers on the other side. They are in their second conference finals in a row now. I do not think people expected it last year or this year. Thoughts on Indiana? What a run they're having this year. I think last year's run was a bit more unexpected. I don't think this year's run is as surprising, but I also don't think a lot of people thought that they were going to be this good. But they've been silently kind of rebuilding really ever since the Sabonis Halliburton trade. They've been silently rebuilding over there, and it's finally starting to pay off. But yeah, thoughts on Indiana?
They look good. They look good. I mean, they obviously had a stride too, very well coached. And shout out Miles Turner. He looks, like he belongs down in the paint amongst the trees. So go him.
Agreed. Miguel, do you have anything nice to say?
Yeah.
No, I had an unstable connection, so I was worried I wasn't. No, I do. They're balling. I think Halliburton's hit some big shots.
Yes.
They've looked like the better team in both series that they've played, and I think they're going to give whoever comes out of that, please, New York-Boston series, a tough task. I think that's going to be good basketball, just in terms of like Obi Toppin going back playing against New York, that storyline. I think the pace versus that defense of the Knicks is going to be really fun because the Knicks get up and down well enough too. So please give me that one because I think it's going to be good. And I think even though they've been really hot, I think it's an easier out for the Knicks than playing a Boston would be. Oh, sorry. They're playing Boston than playing a Cavs team at their full strength would have been, just in terms of matchups. I think they match up well, big wise, and guard wise. But yeah, I don't know. The yes sirs are hot right now. So is it flip a coin for that one? Fresh basketball though. I'll take new teams playing into the finals. This is what we've been waiting for. The real NBA fan, not the casual, being like, no LeBron, no, yeah, it is what it is.
Even though
I do love me some Bron in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, you love to see stars and proven players in the postseason, but like you said, I think for hoop fans, Knicks and Pacers is, I mean, just thinking about what it was in the '90s, it's that type of.
Wait, hold on.
Forward to it now.
That storyline. That's the one. I was missing.
Yeah, something. No, that storyline is there, and
incredible.
I think it's going to be a couple squabbles in that series too. I definitely think they're going to get under
a bunch of people.
Yeah, I mean, but no, I mean, to speak on Indiana for a second, I think that you had people calling Halliburton overrated, and I think he's more annoying than he is actually overrated. But they have a well-oiled machine there, and like you said, Ashley, very well coached. I think Carlisle is actually underrated as a coach, but they have all the makings right now, and they're an extremely young team, right? So I think Indiana, especially, we've been talking about how open this East is likely to be. I mean, Indiana has the opportunity now, really them and New York in a way, for the rest of these playoffs, and then going into next year. Might be a stretch, but this is just first thing that came to mind. I liken it to the idea of when Jordan retired, and it was them 2 years when everything was open in the league for somebody else to go get theirs. Akeem and people top 10 because he went and got them 2 rings in that time. We being honest. So one of these young dudes is somebody can come in here and snag them one. Either, you're going to have a couple people be able to get their one, or somebody that good, i.e. potentially an Ant, come and get they two, maybe in the middle of some stars grabbing theirs, that's how you get your name in the history book. So I think the same goes for a Halliburton because of the team that they have, and also because they're in the East, and the East being wide open is way different than the West being wide open, right? So yeah, but yeah, so the East is kind of sort of squared away a little bit. We're expecting the Knicks to come out. Pacers have already came out, so we shall see. Moving to the West, we'll start with the Warriors and the Wolves. I think as nice as this series has been to watch for the most part, obviously Steph going down in game one. Again, not as dark of a cloud because it's not as bad of an injury, but I think the fact that Steph knew it was something that would keep him out for a few games and that it obviously changed the trajectory of the series in a lot of ways, I think is unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, Steph injury aside, what have it been your major takeaways from the series so far?
Well, we know that the Timberwolves can take advantage of an opportunity. I just wonder though, what do we contribute this play to? Steph not being on the floor? Or are the Wolves really hitting their stride? Now, I know Ant, he's on his tour of getting all the old heads out of here. And I don't doubt that he wouldn't be, as successful as he is in the series. But I just wonder when they do face a Denver or an OKC this season, how would that look? Healthy.
I do I do think it's an interesting thing to look at, like, just how much has Minnesota been tested because I mean, the Lakers were healthy. It was just a mismatch for them, as it
Yeah.
turned out, And yeah, with the Warriors, Steph being out just heightened all of their deficiencies that we already like kind of already knew were there, but Steph not being there, just there's no way to mask them now. And
Hmm.
I think a lot of us expected Jimmy to just assume a bigger role because Steph was out, but like that didn't happen either. So I don't know. They're it's kind of hard because you don't want to take away from what Minnesota has been doing,
Right.
specifically the play of a Julius Randle, the play of a Rudy Gobert. Like they've been consistent throughout these playoffs, right? But you definitely can't take away the fact that they're not playing teams 100%. So I don't think the team looks too much differently when they're playing somebody that's fully healthy, say whoever comes out of OKC and Denver. But at this point, I think if they already got the momentum, healthy may not matter that much if they already are, have things going on all cylinders. But it'll definitely be interesting to see. I mean, I think with Steph being out, this kind of takes away from the OG killer or like legend killer narrative a little bit. But I also wouldn't consider it a fluke for Minnesota to be getting back to their conference finals once again. And I just think that's so interesting because I'm genuinely surprised because I wouldn't have expected them to be getting back to the conference finals after the trade in the offseason, after the way they looked in the regular season. But that also kind of tells the tale of a season. You're starting the season, it's a new group, you got new cold superstars. They got to figure out how to mesh, how it makes sense, how they need to play with each other. But it starts clicking when it needs to at the right time, and you get momentum at the right time, and you find yourself in the conference finals again. So I think it's a 50-50 thing. I think you just realize that all things play a role. Like Steph not being out there plays a role, but them having their momentum and gelling at the time that they have plays a role as well. And
It happened with Indiana,
yeah,
happened with New York. Like every team that has seen success, it's a mix of luck and skill
agreed.
and will. But it was, yeah, I love the series. This is what I've been waiting for. I've said it for 2 years. Ant-Man is the man. Uh, I need him to. I want. I think the Nuggets are going to make it out of this series. I want it to be OKC so that he can put another feather in his cap because he's already got the Nuggets, and I think the Nuggets would be a harder out this year for them,
Yeah.
matchup wise. Um, But all being said, road to the finals. Take us home. Come on. That's all. Give me Knicks Wolves, and I'll be a happy camper. Dallas got the number 1 pick. It should have been Cooper, Wemby, Chris Paul, ring 2026. But next time in another universe. Dang, I saw it. I was so excited. I was like, we are gonna do it.
Wait,
But
so
Ace Bailey will be enough.
but moving on to the last series, Thunder versus Nuggets. Why does nobody want OKC to make the finals? And why doesn't anybody like Shea? I don't understand this.
I don't either. I honestly, in the West, I could see Shea. I could see Ant. I could see another Jokic. I think these are all likable teams. I could see the Warriors if they were healthy.
Right.
I'm putting my hater goggles on here. Not that this is me. This is just the lens that I'm seeing it through. They say foul baits, even though what they did with James Harden to take away free throws, he averages more points than everybody. And also, his foul baiting isn't as baity as a lot of other people's.
Maybe.
I think, there are moments when it looks bad. The neck snaps, like I'm not a fan of that type of flopping. They're selling a call and then they're selling a call. So sometimes I think they see that and they're like, no one likes a free throw merchant. I think they're saying he's got fake aura that it's forced aura now that like he does too much with like the people behind him, and it's like he's Canadian. I think people forget that at the end of the day, and I think there's just a general just like unsavoriness we have towards Canadians. Americans speak more on this. Drop a comment down below. Yeah, I'd say that all plays a part in terms of like why people, want to hate on him. Anyone that gets popular, you're gonna find some reason to hate. That's just a product of your success. Look at our comments. We don't know ball. But I digress. It's a great series. That's the best series right now. It's the only equal series. I believe it's going 7. I called that OKC would win tonight. Oh no, I said Nuggets would win in OKC. OKC would win game 6. And then we're going back for game 7. But just a chess match. Kochic versus Dagnall is pretty good.
But yeah, to answer your question, Ashley, that at least you asked on the docket, is this series going to go 7? I think so. I hope so. Miguel, like you said, it's definitely the best. Denver has been in the best series of the playoffs, and that doesn't surprise me one bit. How this has to do with them being a tough out versus them being a very inconsistent team, I don't know. Could be a mix of both, right?
Incredible.
Jokic incredible, but then also Jokic's struggles have been, a storyline as well, right? And I think the thing about this series, and why I like it so much is it's not an easy series. Like Jokic has not been efficient. Shea has not been efficient. Like they're not looking like their regular selves, which I think has a lot to do, obviously, with the heightened playoff intensity and things of that nature. But I also think both teams are kind of aware of what this particular matchup is, right? Like you have the MVP candidates, but also like, is OKC going to be the team that like takes this throne, like takes this mantle away from Denver, who has kind of sort of had it since at least the year they won the championship? Like, yeah, Minnesota shocked them last year, but then Minnesota got beaten. It was just a whole toss up. But Jokic having the year that he has, it's kind of like Denver still kind of, in a way, Denver still has this, you got to go through us kind of thing. And I think OKC feels that and knows that as the younger team who's seen this team as they've been getting better and growing. This team has already been there where they're trying to be. So I think there's a layer of that in here as well, which is also making the series great. But then also, there's so many like minor storylines and so many important players in this series. When you look on the Denver side, I think arguably the biggest playoff riser, Aaron Gordon. My God. I mean, how many games is he going to win for the Nuggets this postseason?
Yeah.
Has had his moments. I mean, he's been shooting the hell out of the basketball from three. Don't know where this came from, but he's been a big reason why they've been in the games that they have. So same thing goes on the other side. I think we, saw a couple games where J-Dub, stepped up, and they need him to step up and be that second option. Caruso has had some major games as well. So again, like there's so many major storylines, but like underlying narratives of this series that I think plays a role in it being probably the best one of the postseason so far, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, I think Denver not only has had the toughest path in this year's playoffs, but like you said, I do love the gotta go through us mentality. I was scared about how they would play after the firing of Michael Malone. But man, coaching, she's cooking some plays up. And also love to see how impactful Russ has been able to be for the Nuggets, especially throughout the playoffs. But it just looks like even without Jokic having that impact that we're used to seeing him have, the others have stepped up in a way that, we haven't seen Cleveland's others step up. And some other teams where, the bench would have been a little more reliable, we haven't seen that. But for Denver, it's like all cylinders are clicking right now.
Agreed. Yeah, I don't know. I Does Denver's offseason look vastly different depending on how far they make it in these playoffs? Like, let's say they lose this series. Does their offseason look that much different if they make the finals?
I think it's exactly the same.
Yeah, same.
I don't think that a new coach. I think that is the main thing that this team needs. They need a new coach, and they need. Let me see you don't really need a backup point guard. You need a backup center.
Mhm.
I'm thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, they need a backup PG. No, you need someone that's going to back Jokic and give you like semi-decent productive minutes.
Would you all be surprised if Adelman gets the head coaching job officially?
Depending on how the series goes, I don't think it would be a shock. I don't think it'd be a shock because the best coach available was when they fired.
Right.
True.
Exactly.
So this is
Does Mark Jackson get another shot in this coaching carousel with any team?
Not after we said about LeBron's wife.
Yeah, true.
Actually, I looked into that recently. Like I looked into Mark Jackson's coaching history. Because I think we were having a conversation about Kerr kind of inheriting the Warriors. And so I kind of looked back at Mark Jackson's coaching career, and yeah, that man ain't getting another opportunity. It's not happening. It's not.
Any assistants on the rise, y'all think?
Probably not too many names that are standing out right now, like they kind of have in years past, but it wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we've already seen some of these assistants, like San Antonio. He was an assistant, got moved up. Same thing happened. Same thing happened in Memphis. I think it's going to happen in Denver. I think Adelman is going to get the job. That might
Brooklyn it happened.
That might also depend way more on what they decide to do in the front office in general, seeing as they fired the GM too. But yeah, so I don't know, but I mean, I'm sure we'll see it. That also depends on how many vacancies we have at the end of the season, because as of right now, no teams have made any decisions, on that yet. So we'll see what that looks like come the end of the offseason. But I don't know. I feel like most teams, I can't see there being more than like 5 coaching vacancies.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like most teams are they gonna stay put where they at right now for whatever the reason is. But yeah, Thunder. Okay, so choke game 1. My God, what a choke. But they've responded every time that they've kind of given a game away in this series. They've responded. I think in terms of kind of navigating the test of lack of experience and kind of licking their wounds and fighting back. They're doing that this series, and this is the series, to do that. What does it mean if the Thunder don't get out of this series?
Mm. I don't know. I don't think they could really weigh too much on, because this is the last champ out of the West. Granted, they look different. They're not super different. Like it's still Jokic, it's still Aaron Gordon, it's still Jamal, it's still MPJ. So yeah, I think you got to stick with it and run it back, even though it's not to where you want it to get. This
Why
is
does it
still,
feel like now or never though?
they're so young. I say give them time.
It feels like now or never to me.
No, I agree. I don't know why I'm getting that sense of a feeling as well. Like, and I don't think they're in any position to where they have to blow it up or they have to feel like they have to move on from somebody. But I think it's because of how they're built, to be honest. I think because they seem built to win right now. Like, you have the young star player, you have the good, supporting cast. You have the vets that have that experience. You have the young role players. Like they're built to win a championship. But I think when you're proving that you're built to win a championship, that journey and that path comes with so much. And I think that maybe for a lot of us, this is our first time watching teams go through the entire phase versus we're so used to seeing the stars just do it. And LeBron
Mhm.
dominated the playoffs for so long. And we just got used to feeling like, oh, if you're a star, like if you're a top player, you're supposed to dominate. You're not supposed to have the pitfalls. It's kind of supposed to just come to you because you're that good and you're playing that good. But that's not the case in the NBA today. Call it the parity, call it just the changes in the game that have made it so unpredictable. There's too many factors at play to where we can say, oh, because a team is built to win a championship, that they're going to win a championship. Like things happen. Playoff basketball is completely different. So I agree with you. I feel like it's now or never, but they have too much flexibility and they're in too good of a place to need to do anything. But I think it's situations like this where all of a sudden now teams are trying to figure out, do we need to blow this up? Do we need to swing for the fences and bring in something more solidified? I.e., this is where I feel like a Giannis situation comes into play for them. But I don't know. Like I agree with you though. I can't put my finger on it exactly, but it does feel now or never for them, even though I think everybody understands that they shouldn't be in panic mode if they were to lose this series, especially to Jokic and the Nuggets. But,
You know,
but yeah, if they win the series, do you think that silences any of the haters or the critics?
For OKC?
Yes.
no.
Am I not privy to haters or critics when it comes to OKC?
Oh, people, they are annoyed by OKC. Like
Oh.
OKC is arguably like the little brothers of the league to some
I
people.
mean, yeah, and they're like that AAU team, but I thought people were like behind that. The whole dog thing and
I think fans are behind it more than actual people in the league are behind it.
okay. Okay.
I've heard more. I feel like I've seen more players and there be more discourse around in terms of feeling like taking a team serious. I think a lot of people are looking at them like we can't take them serious because
Mhm.
of the whole like
It
AAU
feels
vibe.
said.
You said
Well, not taking them serious is what got them to the number one seed. You know what I mean? Like you could sleep on them all you want. They're still ballers.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think if OKC gets out of this series, I think they're definitely going to have to fight for it. So I think if they get out of it, they definitely earned it. I think the Wolves is going to be a completely different challenge. And I just genuinely think that Shea and Ant is going to be popcorn for the league because you're talking about two players that are arguably considered top five right now, like in the league, to some. And you're literally looking at the future of the league. And both of them still have to prove that they can get there and be the guy and do it and get it done. And so I think that would be an even bigger like task for Shea. It'd be an even bigger task for OKC. And I think I want them to get out of this series for that. If I get OKC Wolves and Knicks Pacers, to me, that is the epitome of the new guard terms. We're getting a young superstar that's going to get their first ring. One of these young superstars is going to finally separate themselves from the pack, and that has to start somewhere, right? Like we have to get these new crop of superstars starting to separate themselves because that's how it happens in history, right? So, yeah, I don't think whether OKC comes out this series or not makes or breaks their future, but I do think it could potentially change what it looks like because of the era we're in the NBA. So we'll see. But yeah, no, best series of the playoffs. We call the series going 7. And if that is the case, this episode will release before game 7. Who do y'all have coming out the series?
Tough for me. Denver.
Yeah, I called the Nuggets. I got to stick with the Nuggets.
Jesus. I'll go with OKC. I'll go with OKC because that's what I want. I would not be surprised at all if Denver does it, but I think I want OKC to come out of this for all the reasons. This was something that came up, and I think it's something that we're starting to see more now than ever. The layers or levels of a championship window. What would you all consider those to be? Because I think it's hard to define what a championship window is in the NBA now. And maybe we can start there. But I do feel like there are like different levels or layers to it that kind of explain the complexity of it.
Layers and levels of championship window. Age. Parity of the league. Chemistry.
Those are the components. When I'm thinking layers and levels, I'm thinking like stages, like steps of it.
What's the process of it?
Sure, if that makes it easier to break down in that way.
Be terrible, lottery pick. Generational lottery pick, preferably. Insert LeBron, Giannis.
No, okay, you're starting too early. I'm talking about the actual window. So, like, if we look at the Bucks, for example, like the Buck, like
young, lose a bad one.
What you said? What?
Be young, lose a bad one. Trade when visually seeing, oh, this is what we're missing. Then from there, or draft and see what we're missing. Insert a Draymond there. Insert us trading for Drew. Insert whatever lateral move a team needs to make to see that their window is there and this is what we need. They do that. You lab it for a year or two. Eastern Conference Finals, Western Conference Finals. You peter out there. You run it back. Preferably see a chip by that next year. Once you see that chip and you have your superstar and you have your core, sign guys to like 3-year max deals so that you have that window that you can shop with. You have like last year, non-guaranteed, or, they can opt in, opt out. So you have some flexibility to rework. But like you have like your core, like 2-3 guys that you sign for like, that max. And then, you just let it ride for 5 years.
So what would you say the average is? What's the average championship window in the NBA?
2 years. Average? 2 years.
I agree with that.
Like the good ones are like 5.
Right.
Dynasty, you're at like your franchise is set for a decade.
Right.
Or
agreed. Ashley, any thoughts?
I'm gonna say because there's trades, there's everything that happens to a team, injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking 2 to 3 years. I think that's when you said that though, that made me realize why I feel like it's do or die for OKC. This is the second year, so
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And that's kind of I feel like this idea started with the idea of the Bucks, but I've just been thinking about the league really ever since the end of the Warriors Cavs like saga, basically. So was that like after 2019, basically considering the bubble and going, doing all that. So I think we saw a lot of dynasties in the 2000s and even in the 2010s. Like obviously, like Bron was running everything, especially in the East. But you had Kobe and Shaq, then you had the Spurs in there. You had the Pistons get their one. But then you had Wade get his one. But then you had Kobe and Powell. Then you had the Heatles and the Spurs. Then you had the Warriors. So like for a long time, the league was really controlled by the dynasties, right? Like, and it's not like they didn't have some tough, routes to get to some of those championships, but it was dynasties. Whereas, really, since the turn of the new decade, that's where we've seen the parity come in, where there's been a different, champion, every year since 2019, right? So, um, but within that, I think we've seen that happen because well, you could probably attribute that to things like financially in the league being different. But since there's more parity now, no longer, and it's just harder to pay all the pieces you need to have a championship roster, right? So that's why I agree
Yeah.
with that 2 year thing because you got the year where it's like you either go in knowing that like you feel like you got it or you stumble upon it and it's like, oh, we didn't realize we had this conference finals run, okay, maybe we can run this back and see if this is enough for a chip. But if players aren't willing to make pay cuts, or if you can't replace somebody or keep everybody on the payroll and got the right, camaraderie there, once you get there, it's extremely hard to get back. Like it's not too many teams that's repeatedly getting to the finals, repeatedly getting to conference finals, especially when you take if everybody was healthy into account as well. So I think we're starting to see that play out more and more, but I'm a fan of it. I love it. I like it for the league, the idea it that you don't know, the idea that it could be any given team in a sense out of the pool of contenders or teams who generally have enough. So yeah, but that was I think in regard to where we are in this postseason and what it looks like it's shaping up to be for the conference finals. Um, I think is kind of relevant, you could say. One could think.
Yeah.
But man, that has been another episode of the Right Quality Podcast. Playoffs are heating up. The NFL schedule gets released tomorrow from when we are recording. A couple of our schedule. Ashley, how many games did you see by now? This won't.
the whole week
Packers
one
Eagles
slate.
November 10th.
Yeah, the entire week one slate is out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
International games are out. So a good majority.
Okay.
Are we international? Did they send us to Ireland or something?
I don't think Packers got one international game this year.
No,
Vikings
they were.
got two.
Oh,
Who?
Yeah.
Who did?
Vikings, they got back to back.
back to back.
Back to back. They play. Don't get okay. It's one in. Do they play in Spain? I don't know. And then they play in London for sure.
Dang, that's kind of tough.
Yeah. Ah, well. No, but there will be more to talk about. The next time we record, we will be in the midst of the beginning of conference finals. So we will have more to get into, more to talk about 9 times out of 10. Wow, the W starting soon. So we'll have to talk on their opening weekend, get into that a little bit, see what storylines are starting there. But yeah, no, playoffs, not playoffs, sports in general, still very heavy for us. So we'll have a lot going on for y'all next episode. But until then, and until the next time, we'll catch y'all, man. Peace.